Never Let Me Go, directed by Mark Romanek, grapples with one of the most emotional and thought-provoking novels of the last 20 years, but it struggles in that transition from page to screen. The original novel, written by Kazuo Ishiguro, successfully invents a reality with new rules, but manages to curb that curiosity with its deep focus on character. This is where Romanek and screenwriter Alex Garland went wrong. The film becomes far too focused in its exploration of this alternate reality instead of taking that time to develop its characters. The film comes around to fix this flaw by the last third, but by that point, is it too little too late? Never Let Me Go attempts to frame itself in a series of long-winded flashbacks had by our protagonist, Kathy, played by Carey Mulligan. It's unfortunate that Kathy's inner dialogue is often sparse compared to the novel, because that is what helped define this character's personality. Without, Kathy merely becomes a lens for the audience to view the story through. Mulligan plays the role well, but the real star of the cast is Tommy, played by Andrew Garfield. Garfield certainly provides the most memorable and nuanced performance, and his continued widespread success certainly gives credence to this as well. We also are accompanied by Ruth, played by Keira Knightley, who, sadly, is the character most downsized from the novel. Again, Knightley does a well and fine performance, but the spunk and liveliness seems to be nowhere in the screenplay, and thus Ruth feels the most useless of the three. Romanek begins the film with a series of text that explains in 1952 humanity had achieved some great accomplishment, that the average life expectancy had jumped up to 100 years. We aren't yet told what this achievement is, however. We then see Kathy as an adult watching her friend Tommy be operated on as she begins to reminisce their childhood at the boarding school, Hailsham. We then begin to follow Kathy, Ruth, and Tommy from their sheltered childhoods through their teens and into their adulthood. We watch as the students are focused specifically to create art. But it's not until the sympathetic and concerned instructor Miss Lucy, played by Sally Hawkins, informs the children of what their true and unavoidable fate is to be. While what is revealed is extremely interesting and thematically relevant, it's during these portions of the film where far too much time is taken to set up its intrigue. The film chooses instead to rush through the characters' childhood and teen years. We get very little sense of our three protagonists' personalities and connections to one another. We understand that Tommy has anger issues, and that Tommy and Kathy may have a relationship blooming between them. But other than that, we're given very little insight to any of our characters. It isn't until the final third of the film where Kathy's struggles are made known to the audience. This would be fine if these desires and struggles were set up early on, even if their true nature was currently unknown to the audience. It actually would have been quite smart. But unfortunately, these desires and struggles were not firmly constructed from the beginning. I can see the moments we are meant to look back to, and have those moments of epiphanies. But again, the first 2/3 of the film fly by so quickly, and so much time is spent setting up intrigue for the world building, that these moments of recall and epiphany feel almost empty. This is where my issues with Never Let Me Go lies. The source material was correct in choosing to take this alternate reality and push that aspect of the story in the background. Choosing to linger romantically on the past was the entire point of the source material. It seems as though the film forgot this until the final third. When the film finally does want to settle down and become a rich character drama, it already had ruined most of its potential by that point, begging the question of whether or not any of it was really worth it. The film chooses to linger on the most Hollywood aspect of the narrative and loses focus of its most poignant characteristic, character and theme. Again, Mulligan and Knightley are good in this film. They do what they can with what was written for them. Kathy ultimately becomes a fine lens for the audience to view the film through, portraying a nuanced sense of melancholy and hidden understanding that a lesser actress likely would have missed the mark on. It is Andrew Garfield that presents the most raw and affecting performance. Beginning in the novel, it was always Tommy that became the heart of the story, but this is emphasized even further by Garfield's truly great performance. It's the tragedy of Tommy's character that prompts the themes of the story that do still creep their way into this film version by the end. It's a desire to live a life worth living. It's having memories that mean something. It's the soul and how it defines our humanity. It's about those who lose for the greater's selfish benefit. It's these themes and messages that do still remain mostly intact that saves Never Let Me Go. As I've mentioned, it's not until the final third that the film comes to its senses and finally decides to settle down and become the narrative it was meant to be. We are given great and emotional scenes between the principal actors as they contemplate their lives and their fates. Romanek manages to mostly stick the landing of what makes this story truly heart-wrenching and beautiful. When the blissful ignorance is wiped away by time, it's the desperation that leaps out and guts the audience. Never Let Me Go ultimately asks the same questions and hits similar emotions to its quintessential source material. But it's the film's adaptation attempt to squish and popularize the story's heart that leaves its poignant ending with an inkling of emptiness and unfulfillment, setting itself up for failure to reach its fullest potential. I give Never Let Me Go 3 stars.